That's a lot, yeah. Okay, so let's pretty much start. So, guys, the idea behind this was actually my idea just because I was seeing things around in Indonesia that I was like, okay, maybe people don't really understand a few basic things. The idea for this is not to give you a full insight of what is a diet. The idea is just to help you understand a little bit more of what we think of me and Joe, what we think when we think about eating good quality, healthy foods. Okay, this is not a guide. This is just a thing that can help you understand a little bit more about nutrition. All right. We're gonna go through the presentation, and then after the presentation, we're gonna open for questions. So if you have any questions, make sure you write that down or you remember that. And then after the whole presentation, feel free to ask as many questions as you want. Okay? Do you want to say something to begin? No, but you're gonna be the first one, actually.
Am I? All right. Okay. So look, like Lucas said, this is pretty much a basic overview of food in general and what we think of when we think of healthy food. Okay. But the first thing that we have to understand really is what is your goal? Because eating for a goal is really what you should base your entire diet around. All right. So if your goal is to gain weight or gain muscle, you're going to be eating very differently than somebody whose goal is to lose weight, right? And then in the same way, it's not just about fat or muscle. It's not just I want to gain weight, I want to lose weight. Because, for example, if you would like to be healthy, you're going to eat very differently than the way that you would eat if you want to lose weight. Okay? What I mean by that? Can you, eating only McDonald's, lose weight? Yes. Okay? It's perfectly possible. If you want to lose weight eating a junk food diet, 100% junk food only, you can still lose weight, but you're not going to be healthy doing so. Okay? In the same way, you can gain weight eating only junk food and you won't be healthy, right? But then beyond that as well, there's also the volume or the amount of food that you eat that we're going to have to talk about. And we'll go into that a little bit later. All right. But the main thing for you to understand is that when we're going through all of this, you have to go from the understanding of what your personal goals are. All right.
Right. So I think that the biggest misconception that I hear over here at the gym, is like the eat single ingredients part that we talk about when we do the fundamentals. So what is single ingredients? Okay, but we also have that that quote that CrossFit uses a lot, which is eat meat and vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch, and no sugar. But what does that mean? Do we really understand what those things mean, right? And the idea, no, right? And what does that mean? The idea is pretty much, if we keep it simple, is I pretty much know what is in here. Okay, so it's potatoes, broccoli, eggs, and maybe water, cucumber, and lemons. But I don't know what's inside of here, of Baxo, okay? Because I don't know what's going on in the soup. I don't know what is going on inside the meatball. I don't know what's going on inside the noodles. I don't know what's going on with the sauce, okay? The idea is not that you should only be eating, for example, just eggs without anything on the side. The idea is that you understand what is inside the food that you're actually eating, okay? So if you pretty much you're not sure, probably it's not single ingredient, okay? With that, it also comes when we see a label like this in foods. So when I see this over here, which is a peanut butter, and I see the ingredients, it says here, dry roasted peanuts and salt. Straightforward, right? There's nothing to that. But then when I come to a thing like a cereal, I start reading the ingredient, and it's like whole oat flour, okay. And then sugar, okay, I know it's sugar. It's not good, but I understand what that is. Maltodextrin, maybe I know. Molasses, I don't know what that is. Natural flavor, reduced iron, and things like that. So they start having a lot of complicated words. It probably, or it isn't single ingredients, because I don't understand what's going on inside of that. How much do I have of this? How much do I have of that? Okay. I think that's so. The idea is pretty much understanding or being aware of what you're eating. Okay. Are you eating something that you understand what you're eating or no? You're just eating because it's okay. It looks good. I'm gonna eat that. So the idea is not that you should cut everything. It's just making better choices. So you understand that if, for example, you want to eat peanut butter and then you go to the market and you see peanut butter, that it's a label like that. So peanut butter. So it's just peanuts and salt. And then you see the other one that's like, this one has peanut butter, has sauce, and then has something chocolate, something no no no, something no no no. You can make better choices with that. All right. Anything you want to add to this? No. All right.
All right, so like Lucas is saying, the idea is once you understand what the foods are that you're eating, then it's really important that you understand that food is fuel, okay? So your body, if you look at it like a machine, like a car that you're driving, it really depends on what fuel you put in, okay? I think most of us here, when we fill up our car, we fill it with turbo, yes? Turbo. Does anybody fill it with pertalite? No. I mean, if you're in a pinch, let's say you've gone hiking, you didn't fill up your gas right away, and your gas is almost empty, and that's all they have available because that's what they have on the side of the road in those little Absolute vodka 1 liter bottles, right? So you pull over and you say, hey, can I have 3 liters of that, please? This is just enough for me to get down the mountain and make sure that I fill up with proper gas. It's the same principle. Ideally, when you guys are eating, you really want to make sure that the food quality that you have is as high as possible. And that comes from an understanding of what's in your food, okay? If you guys can make those food choices based on what is the most important thing for me to eat, what is the highest quality that I can have, what does my body need right now, if you can start asking those questions, and then when you have the right answer, making those right food choices, that's going to help you a lot. Cool? All right. So what that means is that you have to eat quality food. Now, again, quality food, what is that? Is it just food that tastes delicious? No. Right? It's, again, something that you have to take some time to think about. Do you understand what's in your food? And if you understand what's in your food, then you can judge it whether it's high quality or low quality. All right? And so, along with that, we also have to eat diverse food. Diverse food means there's many different types, okay? We can't just eat the same type of food. And to break that down a little bit more, we have to understand what types of food there are, okay? So, go ahead.
You want to
No, 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 please.
Okay. And the idea behind eating diverse food is diversifying because we need to understand what your body needs. And then we come down to two kinds of what your body needs. So macronutrients and micronutrients. So macronutrients would be protein, carbohydrates, and fat. And then micronutrients would be vitamins and minerals pretty much, okay? The idea is just understanding what those are. Because for me, when I talk to most of you, I see that there's not a lot of understanding or there's a lot of misconceptions of what those are, okay? The first thing is protein. So when we think of protein, we usually go and we think about meat. But hey, Lucas, what if I'm vegetarian? Or what if I don't like eating certain kinds of meat? What if my religion doesn't allow me to eat some certain kind of meat? I can always have another choice. And when I look down at the plates when we go out, for example, it happened yesterday when we went out for lunch. When I look down at the portion of the proportion of the protein on the plate, it is usually not enough. For me, at least, because I already have an understanding of what I want or how do I feel satisfied. And why do I need to eat protein? Because protein is something that is going to help me build more lean mass. It is also going to help me lose weight if that's my goal. But it's also going to have other functions in your body. So maybe if you are not eating enough protein, you will always feel like you're bloating, or maybe it's going to feel different. Maybe you're going to feel that you don't have enough energy. So it's going to be a little bit different for each person. So it's not one model fits all. There's going to be variables. There's going to be differences in between. But the idea is making sure that you're still eating protein, okay? If possible, eating good quality protein. So let's take another example let's just bring an example over here. So yesterday we went out. So I was out with Tika, Linda, and Ime, and we went for lunch. And then on the lunch, when we had our plates over there, yes, we had squid, we had tuna, we had, what else? We had also chicken. So we had good meat. But then when you look at the size of the portion that we had, it was just this. Okay, it was pretty small. And then I told them, oh, this is just 1/3 of what I would eat for that. And they were like, really? Yeah. So when we think of this, we always want to make sure that we are eating proteins to balance our plates. And because the main problem actually uh, comes when we're thinking of carbohydrates, okay? And there's a lot of misconceptions with the carbohydrates as well. So carbohydrates, everything pretty much that is not meat will most likely fit in this category. Sometimes when we think about carbohydrates, we're only thinking of bread, potatoes, pasta. No, fruits also fit here. Veggies also fit here. All right. So sometimes when you see someone, oh, I'm doing a high protein, low carb diet. That person says that, okay, what you're eating? In the morning, I have one banana, and then I have one egg and coffee. Okay. And then on the lunch, what do you have? Oh, I only eat chicken and some salad. Okay, what is in the salad? Tomatoes, carrots, things like that. So the idea is understanding what is a carbohydrate, what is protein. All right. So if you're trying to decrease the amount of carbohydrates that you're putting inside your body, you should first understand what is it that you're doing, what is actually carbo. Okay. But does that mean that you should cut your carbo? No, because carbohydrates are also necessary for your body. It's also necessary for your training, for your entire life. Maybe sometimes also thinking about your mental health, you're going to be craving a little bit more carbohydrates, and it's going to depend for some people. Okay, I'm not saying cut carbs out of your diet, because when we think of building lean mass, if that's your goal that Joe talked about in the beginning, you will still need to eat carbohydrates. Okay, if you're looking to lose fat, you will still need to eat some carbs. Maybe it's going to be a little bit lower, but you're still going to need to understand that. Most of the time when I go out in Indonesia, and then I go, for example, another example. So I went out with Martin and Sylvie, and we went for soto. In the soto, we had carbs, 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 and then the protein that we had was tempeh. Okay, but then the tempeh was fried tempeh. Okay, so we see that the proportion was like carbs, 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 and not enough protein. Okay, it's not bad. It's not all bad, but the idea is okay. I understand that. So if I decide that I will go out and I will eat something that I know it's going to be high in carbs, for me, now that I'm used to that, I know that I'm not going to be satisfied if I'm only eating carbs. So I never tell you guys this, but I normally eat something before. So I will normally eat eggs in my house. I will normally eat some chicken. Or later on in my next meal, I was like, okay, I need protein. Otherwise, I will not feel satisfied. And carbs, like the protein, they will also carry other different functions in your body. Okay, it's not just making you feel like, okay, I had enough food, because sometimes it's so, I want to have real food, and then you think of rice, and then you think of soto, and then you think of this. No, the idea is understanding that carbohydrates, yes, they are necessary, because they're also going to help other functions of your body. So things like carrying micronutrients from one energy system to the other, helping you build lean mass. So it is important. I'm not saying cut all the carbs. Carbs are evil. No. Okay? And then the last thing about macronutrients is about fat. So fat, it's one thing that I wouldn't say it's not available, but it's not as easily available as carbohydrates, but they are still going to give you a lot of energy if your goal is improving your workout. Okay? The idea is, okay, so I'm just going to eat fat. No, the idea is balancing all of that. So I'm making sure that I'm eating protein, I'm making sure that I'm eating carbohydrates, I'm making sure that I'm eating fat. And what is fat? Oils, nuts, avocados. So there's a lot of ways that we can do to use the fat. But what we need to be careful with fat, it's because fat, when we think of eating fat, we normally don't think of, okay, so I look at my plate yesterday that we had, I was like, okay, I don't see a lot of fat here. But then the chicken was fried, and then the tempeh was fried, and then on my sambo they have like oil, and then okay, so fat is always going to be something that will most likely be present, and we're not getting into the talk of calories. But if we think of fat, fat is the one that is higher in calories compared to carbohydrates and protein. But if I'm thinking that I need to lose fat, do I need to decrease the amount of fat that I'm going to have in my day? Maybe. If I'm working out for a long distance marathon, maybe I'm going to need to have more fat in my body. So it really depends. So there's not a villain here. The idea is understanding what is it that you're eating. Okay, so do you guys understand what's pretty much the idea of fat? I feel like I came short a little bit with that. Good. Joe, you want to add something for any of those?
I think we'll talk about it in the micronutrients bit.
Okay.
Yeah, which is next, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So we definitely want to talk about micronutrients, but one thing to add on for fat here is that, as Lucas touched on, there, I'm not going to say good and bad, but there are fats that have more micronutrients in them, and there's going to be fats that have less micronutrients or that your body handles poorly. Okay. So if you look here, we see things like nuts, we see things like seeds, we see things like avocado and oil. Now, the oil is a bit vague. It's hard to tell what type of oil that is, but there are types of oil that are good for you and there's types of oil that are bad for you. Okay? I would imagine that if you think of something like gorengan, for example, that's deep fried, the amount of oil that gets soaked into that is pretty high. So when you eat a piece of fried banana or you eat a piece of fried tempeh or any kind of gorengan, it's going to have a pretty high volume of oil that has soaked into that as well in the cooking process. We can agree with that, right? Okay. Now, would you prefer to have a tablespoon of olive oil that you just eat right away, or would you prefer to have gorengan that's been fried in oil for multiple sessions, maybe a day or two, and maybe they put a plastic bag in there to make it crispy? Okay? So again, this is worst case scenario versus best case scenario, and so you don't really, it's not really like apple to apple, but you understand where I'm coming from. Okay. The idea again is for us to understand what's in our food and then make choices based on that. So for me, I would much prefer to have the spoon of oil that I just eat directly, even though it's definitely not as tasty as say like right? Okay. But things like olive oil, grapeseed oil, these are things that are good for you. Soybean oil, any kind of plant oil is really not good for you. Okay. I'll say that again. Plant oil, not good for you. Soybean oil, things like that, they have a lot of omega-6, which is not good, not healthy for your heart. All right. Things like olive oil, much better. If you're going to cook, stir fry, coconut oil is a great choice. Okay. And this kind of goes into what we're talking about with micronutrients here. Micronutrients are vitamins and minerals. These are the things that are contained within your protein, your carbs, your fat. So all of these different food types have different levels of micronutrients in them. Okay, so for example, without getting too complex into this, let's say all of these fruits and vegetables that you have here, you have things like bananas, you have things like mushrooms, you have things like tomatoes, asparagus, kiwis. These all have different types of vitamins and minerals in them. So when you look at a kiwi, what do you see? Number one, let's ask, what's the macronutrient? What macronutrient does a kiwi fall under? Carb, right? So along with your carb, it also has micronutrients. What do you have? You'll have things like vitamin C. In this case, it's saying things like vitamin B2, right? You'll have all of these other things in there as well. So if you look at that and then you compare that, say, to, I don't know, like a chip, okay? What kind of micronutrients do you think it has in it? It's macronutrient, carb, yes. A micronutrient, do you think there would be anything in like a potato chip? What minerals in a potato chip? Salt. Excellent. You see what I'm saying? So you kind of weigh it up like that and you see what's the benefit. Do I need that much salt in my diet? Maybe you do. Maybe you do. There are some people and there's some situations where you'll need a lot of sodium. Again, what we're talking about, there's no right and wrong. And that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit more. We have to get out of the habit of thinking of foods as good or bad. You just have to understand what's in your food so that you can make the right food choices. Okay, so again, back to our example of a kiwi versus a bag of potato chips. I'm going to get carbs from both. Okay, I'm going to get vitamins from one. I'm going to get salt from the other. So depending on what you need, maybe the chips is the right choice. All right, maybe you're really in need of sodium. Okay, go for it. Right? If not, then maybe the better choice is going to be something, again, that's single ingredient, that's a whole food, that has the micronutrients in it as well. Do you understand what I'm saying? Okay. So we have to really look at our foods as much more than just the carbs, the proteins, and fats that they're comprised of, but also what are the micronutrients that come along with the food that you eat. Good? Anything to add with that?
That comes with thinking of eating diverse food. So I can be also unhealthy if I'm just eating, for example, kiwi. I would just be eating kiwi, 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 protein, 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 and then I don't have the other micronutrients. So everything is tied together. So we think about eating diverse food is also one way to think of, okay, I'm getting vitamins and minerals, but I'm getting all of those, okay? And I noticed another thing over here in Indo is that we think a lot about fibers, okay? We think, oh, I'm gonna eat this because it's fibers. Okay, it is fibers. All right. We're only thinking about, okay, so what does fiber mean, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about
Yeah,
fiber?
absolutely. So a lot of people think that fiber is necessary, but there's been a lot of studies that have shown you that fiber is really not necessary for a diet. Okay? Yeah. Boom, bombshell, right? So a lot of times this is the common conception. People think that fiber is, imagine straw, right? A bunch of straw. You cut that up, you eat that, and then it helps to push all of the bad things out of your body, right? That's what people think fiber is. That's the common conception. So fiber is something that's going to help you to get rid of all of the toxins out of your system, cleanse your colon, all of that. It doesn't do that. Fiber will make your poo more voluminous. There'll be more of it, okay? So if you have issues with constipation, for example, and you think that fiber will solve the issues with constipation, no. Chances are high it'll actually make it worse because now you have to deal with a bigger constipated poop, okay? So well, look, this is the thing. It can be an uncomfortable topic to talk about, but you have to understand that what comes out of you is a really good representation of what you've eaten as well. So if your stools are not relatively firm, come out nicely, right? If there's a lot of oil in them, or it's always runny, or they're massive and just clumpy, these are things that, yes, it's kind of awkward to talk about, but there's value in checking to see what the quality of your poo is, okay? Does that make sense, guys? So again, coming back to what we were saying, fiber is really not something that you have to think about too much. As in, I must get my fiber. It is not necessary for health. All right. If you want to eat fiber, cool. But things like fiber drinks, et cetera, absolutely unnecessary. Okay.
Unless you really have a condition in which you need to eat more fibers, okay? So again, it is going to be different for each person, okay? So if you have a problem that you're always going to the toilet too much, maybe you're eating not enough fibers and things like that to make your poop more consistent. So there's always two sides to that game, okay? That's also good.
All right. So the next thing we're going to talk about is how food plays a role in your recovery. So this is another really important topic, and we're going to talk, first of all, we train like we did today. After we train, what do we tell you need to do? Rest, eat well, okay? Take some time to recover. Eating well, again, fueling your body with the right type of macronutrients, with the right volume of micronutrients is going to give your body what it needs to be able to recover well, all right? You understand that you are comprised of everything that you eat. All the food that you eat is what your body then transforms into energy or into muscle, right? This is what your body burns. So going back to the concept of food as fuel, you're fueling your body with whatever it is that you consume, okay? So if we're choosing the right ingredients, we're choosing high quality fuel for our body's going to recover better. Our body's going to recover faster. We're going to get towards our goals, whatever those goals are, we're going to get towards those goals faster, okay? But it's really important to understand that along with nutrition, you also have to rest. You also have to sleep. Are we talking about recovery right now? Okay. So another thing, again, the reason why we wanted to talk about recovery and nutrition is because we're seeing a lot of overtraining in the gym. All right? We're not going to... They don't do it, huh? Here, it's Wednesday's rest day, and then on Wednesday, we have people come in and they smash a WOD, okay? And it's not just an easy WOD. It's not something recovery. It's hardcore, a lot of repetitions, a lot of weight, a lot of difficult movements, right?
2 hour long workout.
2 hour long workouts. So understand that more is not always more. Sometimes you need to take a step back and you need to be able to recover to allow yourself to be able to have higher output on your training days, okay? Understand that we have 5 training days in a week, and if you're able to hit all 5 of those training days as programmed, at the intensity that's programmed, you will need to have 2 rest days per week. One of those rest days, I recommend a full rest day, as in you do nothing. You wake up, maybe you go for a walk, maybe you go for a very, very, very light swim. You do something that's going to help your body recover better, okay? The second day can be low intensity. And what does that mean? Low intensity means something that's maybe zone 1, zone 2, right? You're not doing complex movements. You're not lifting a lot of weight. You're not doing anything dynamic. So that means not box jumps. You're not doing a lot of jumping. You're not doing a lot of eccentric loading, so heavy squats, things like that. What you would do instead would be something like maybe some carries, maybe a bike, maybe a ski, maybe a row, right? You're doing things, some plank holds, stuff that's going to allow your body to still get some stimulus in, but it's not going to be asking you to then have to recover from that as well. Does that make sense? Okay? So on a Wednesday, for example, if you guys want to come in and do extra training, go for it. But make sure that it is low intensity and that your body doesn't have to adapt to that training that you've done on that day so that it can recover from Monday and Tuesday so that you can then hit Thursday and Friday harder. And so that then on Saturday, you have enough energy to really give high output. Does that make sense? So if we can get away from that idea that more is more, I understand that we all have goals and we have things that we want to reach for, right? But doing more in a shorter period of time may not get you to the goal line faster. It may mean that you break down before the goal line, and then now that goal is going to get pushed back because you'll have to take time to recover. But if you stay consistent and you work sub-maximally, below your maximum effort, and you do that for a longer period of time, you'll actually reach your goals faster. Okay? Anything to add on that?
So tying all of that with also the nutrition, which is the basics of this, is if you're also eating good quality food, it's also going to help on all of those process for recovery, okay? Because you're not going to be getting more inflamed or eating more than necessary, and then your body has to burn more energy to burn all of that food that you did, okay? So the idea is also, what is your goal again? So you go back, okay, so my goal is to lose weight. So do I need to work out more, or should I be recovering more? Should I allow my body to recover more and not have my body spending the energy where it is not actually necessary, okay? So all of this can be tied together to nutrition. I know that Joe talked to you already about like having the base of the pyramid. So when we're thinking of training, the base of the pyramid is being aerobic work, right? And then we think about body weight movements and then weight movements, so weightlifting or things like that. And underneath all of that is nutrition. So if you have a small base, so if you don't have a strong base, that means that your training will probably not be as good as it could have been, all right? And with this, I brought here an example just to make us understand that sometimes we actually eat more than we think we do. Sometimes you say, oh, no, but I'm just eating this or I'm eating that and then you're eating that. If you write down all of the things that you're eating, sometimes you're going to get shocked. So for example, this would be someone who says, do you eat junk food or do you eat foods that are not quality foods? And then that person tells me, nope, just the weekend. Okay, let's take a dive in that. So the weekend starts Friday, of course, because I already did my work, I already did the workout. So at night I will go out and I will, for example, have some beer and fried chicken with my friends. Okay, I'm having a beer one day, that's fine, that's okay. And then next morning I come, I do the workout or I go for anything, but I'm not thinking that, okay, I need to take care. And then I go for my Saturday lunch, and then I go for, chicha. And then I have pasta and desserts, okay? Which is amazing. I can do that, right? It is an amazing place. And that is okay if that was one. But then I go back at night, and then I have a movie night in my house with my spouse. And then I go and I eat Coke, and I drink some Coke, and then I order pizza, I have chocolates, and then I have also some popcorn because it's movie night. Okay, all right, so that's already three large meals that I already was eating something that is not what I normally do. But then Sunday breakfast, I still have that pizza. Gonna go for it. So I eat the pizza again. And then I go for my lunch, and then I'll go try to compensate on my lunch. Like, okay, it's my lunch, I'm feeling a little bit bloated, so I'm gonna have a salad. But it's also Sunday, so I'm still also gonna have a little bit of dessert after, right? And then we're like, and then we feel a little bit guilty, and then we come at night, and then it's like, well, Tomorrow is Monday, so I can start it tomorrow, and then Sunday night I go and I smash it, and I go and eat everything again. It's okay if this happens once, but if this is happening all the time, if we take a hard look at this, that is 33% of my meals for 1 week, in 3 days, in 2.5 days. Okay? So the idea is understanding that it's not just the weekend. So the weekend, your body doesn't understand what is the weekend. Your body's like, no, on weekends I'm gonna burn more fat. You're on weekends, I know that we're having that bad food. No, the idea is understanding the amount of this that you're eating. So I'm saying, for example, I've been to Chicha and I've been there and I didn't eat protein. I've been there and I ate risotto and pizza and I don't remember what else. The leftover for everyone. Right? So I ate a lot of food, but that was one day that I went there, and then on the next morning or the same day at night, I was eating my normal things. So if you go out of what is your plan, you just come and go back to what you were doing before. Okay? The idea is not preventing you to go out, preventing you to eat something that you like. It's just understanding that maybe it is too much. Okay? If you are more radical, yes, then maybe you would cut. Like I know that you guys think that Joe is maybe too strict, but Joe also, yes. But if you go to Joe's house, you'll see that there's food that's like, Joe. Okay? So, but the idea is that if I'm doing this 33% of the time, then I maybe will not reach my goals. But if I do this once and then I look at my whole year, that is maybe 1%. Okay, of my life. It's not 33%. That's what I want you to look for yourself. So are you eating how much of junk food? And one thing that can help is just write down. Okay, I'm going to write down. Monday, I ate this, this, this. Tuesday, Wednesday, and then 1 week later, you go and you look back and it's like, oh, shit. Okay? Why? Because
Going back to what we talked about before, food is fuel, right? Your body takes everything that you eat and it uses it to create you. Okay? It replenishes your cells. You are what you eat. That's not just a saying, it's true. So everything that you put into your body at some point is going to become you. So using the analogy that we just did, if you have 33% of your meal is junk, then that makes you 33% junk. Okay? There you go. So that's definitely something to think about. Is there something about? Okay, let me dive into this a little bit more. The idea behind this is that we really don't want you guys to think that it's all or nothing. Okay, if it's 33% of your diet currently is junk food, let's make it 30%, and then from there, see how we feel. Maybe we can make it 25%, drop it down to 20, then to 15. And there's always going to be times that are going to be worse than others. Maybe you have wedding season, or it's a party season, or it's your birthday month, or whatever it is, okay? But the idea behind this is for you guys to understand what the composition of your food really is, what's in your food. Then from there, you can make the right food choices that are going to support whatever goal it is that you have. But I know we all have different goals, and so we're not all going to be eating the same way. You have the thing about like, that's the last one? Okay, so then understand this, right? You are what you eat. It's really important to understand that you want to put in the right things to make yourself the best possible version of yourself, okay? But beyond that, it's also really important to understand that there is no such thing as going on a diet. You don't go on a diet, you have a diet. Everything that you eat is your diet. So you have to look at the entire picture. What is everything that I'm eating? And then really ask yourself, what is this food made of? Is this a carb? Is this a protein? Is this a fat? What are the micronutrients that I have in this food, right? Is this going to move me towards my goals, or is it going to move me away from my goals? All right, we have to get out of the idea or out of the mindset of thinking this is a good food, this is a bad food. Again, you can get whatever goals you want eating whatever it is that you want, okay? You can reach whatever goal that you have, but some things are going to help you to get there faster than others. And if your goal is to be healthy, you have to eat healthy foods. All right, there's no way around that one. You can gain weight, lose weight, eating whatever you want. You can gain muscle, lose muscle, eating whatever you want. But you cannot be healthy unless you eat healthy foods. And healthy foods are balanced macronutrients, protein, carbs, and fat, and then as many micronutrients in your food as possible. Micronutrient dense food. Good? Yeah.
And with all of that, I'm just want to propose you guys not a challenge, but just a way that we can track what we're eating. So we're gonna have the summer throwdown for the next 3 weekends, right? Is this something that you can maybe sign up because we want to see the signups? But also, can you eat good quality foods until the competition is done? Okay, so that is going to be 20 days, all right? 20 days of tracking what you're eating, thinking of those things that Joe and I put forward here for you. Can you try to make a change? Can you see the value of this? So this is just going to be 20 days. If you take a look back and you see your whole year, that is how much percent of your whole year. Can you for 20 days eat something that is going to be different than what you're normally eating? Something that is going to help you try or get to your goals a little bit faster, okay? And see how do you feel. There's a lot of books that are over around there. So the Power of Habit, Atomic Habits, in all of those books, that what they would say is that what you need to do for a thing to become your habit is do that thing for 21 days. That is exactly what we have over here. 21 days. So if you can do 21 days of one small change in your daily eating, okay, you will become a little bit more, you will get a little bit closer to your goal, or you will create that more of a habit and not just a thing that I'm doing for once and then I stop. So the idea is making sure that we're being consistent. So we're always think about the same things. We're being consistent in the training, we're being consistent in what we are eating. Okay? Just a thing for me. I'm not gonna push that, but it's good if you can write that down and understand what you're eating a little bit more. Okay? You wanna add something? So, sir. That's it. Do you want to stop recording?
Sure. Guys, let's just leave it on this.
Okay.
Ask any questions and then.
Yeah. Does anyone? Sorry. Does anyone have any questions? Do we want to give the mic?
Is it working?
We are recording. Yes.
No, it's not working.
No pressure.
Okay. Yeah. It's candy.
like
Try it. Okay. Joe, you just said that during the diet, we also need the kind of salt because we women mostly think that on diet we should cut off the salt. I mean, you said so, some people need salt, but the question is need salt during the diet. How do we know? I mean, is there any clue, or do we have to check like to the lab or something? What do we need? You said that we have to eat according to what our body needs. I mean, sometimes we don't know.
So, um, this is one of those type of questions that I'm cautious in how I answer it because I'm not a licensed dietitian. And so I'm very hesitant to give people recommendations of this is how much salt that you need to have, etc. But what I will say is that for most people, having salt in your diet is going to be something that's necessary for you. But to answer your question, how much salt do you need specifically? I do not have that answer. But if you want to go to a dietitian, you can do that. And they can give you a better answer, somebody who's actually licensed to do that. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I can't give you an exact answer, but that's outside of my realm of expertise, and so that's something that I'm not willing to go into. Yeah?
So, I mean, as a female, as a female, I was doing exact same thing because you think, oh, salt, you will hold all the water, you have the water retention, you will get bloated. But when I was competing, I put salt, like extra salt on everything because I needed it. And it actually made me lose weight because I wasn't bloated anymore. Yes, really. Yeah, really. But, and I have to say, here in Indonesia, it's quite hard to get salt because the salt, again, look at the packaging, it's not salt because they put extra stuff in it. So I don't know how you guys get the salt because I asked Mateo too. I was like, dude, I just want a salt mill, like Himalaya salt that I can grind. But if you buy salt in the Hypermart, Indomart,
It's a
just
different salt.
look at the packages. They put extra stuff in it. So it comes again to reading the label and understanding what's inside of it. And Yeah, like Joe mentioned before, I can't give you a straight answer on that one too.
I have one thing. So, for example, for salt, I never look at the packaging. Does that make me bloated or not bloated? No, because sometimes when we think about, okay, I'm gonna start thinking about all those things, and then I start creating barriers for eating healthy. And then I was like, oh, salt, too hard. And then I was like, I'm gonna give up on this because this is too hard. So it's not the salt, it's not the amount of salt that I'm eating or I'm not eating, or the quality of salt that is gonna mess up my entire diet. Okay, so for me, that's not a thing that I worry. I worry more about the other quality food because I'm not going to be eating salt. Okay, so the idea is don't overthink problems that are not that big. Okay, any other questions?
This is Matthew's questions before about the junk food. What is junk food?
So, kind of going back to what we were talking about good foods versus bad foods, a lot of times people will say, this is junk food. Junk food automatically insinuates that it's bad. Junk food is hyper processed food that has low macronutrient quality. Okay? So, for example, McDonald's is highly processed, low macronutrients, unless you're in a place like Australia or Austria, where they have very strict regulations on their beef, for example, and their beef patties are actually made out of beef. Their chicken nuggets are actually made out of chicken, things like that. Okay? But for most places, places like Indonesia, you have no idea what you're getting. So as far as what is or is not junk food, I'd rather you think about it as what is a single ingredient food versus what is a heavily processed food. Okay, so we'll move away from the idea of this is a good food and I'm only going to eat good foods, and this is a bad food, I'm never going to eat bad foods. Understand the quality of what's in your food and then make your food choices based on that. Does that answer your question? Yeah? Ion, you had one?
So what do you think about the vegan beef? Because some people and some athletes done it, and what is your opinion about the vegan beef?
Okay, so that's a great question. Ooh, this is a big one. Let's ask you questions first, okay? So you said what is vegan beef? What do we feel about that? Okay. First of all, ask yourself what's in a vegan beef patty. Everything. What's not in it? Okay. If you read the ingredients of a vegan beef patty, do you understand what the ingredients are? Probably not. Okay. Everything's a little bit vague. There's a lot of stuff in there. If you would like to be vegan, there's a lot of really good ways to be vegan, and that's eating single ingredient whole foods, right? Vegetables, soy. We're not going to get into the downsides of soy, but let's just say soy, okay? You have soy, you have other options, you have chicken, unless you're a full vegan, right? Does that make sense? So as far as beef, that's trying to be beef, but is not actually made out of an animal, it's not single ingredient. So that would definitely fall under the category of foods that we would look at with a little bit more scrutiny, and maybe we would choose other foods that are made of single ingredients more than we choose those foods. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
I think that you also asked about a vegan-based athlete, so someone who's vegan and is an athlete. That is possible, but then you have to go back and see. So when I showed you the slide of protein, there was not only meat there, there was also some beans. So it comes down again for you to going and consulting a nutritionist, so someone who is a registered dietitian who can give you that choice. Okay, so I'm not gonna eat. I'm gonna be a vegan athlete because I don't like the taste of meat or I don't like cruelty to animals. Whatever your reason is, yes, it is possible. You just need to go back and consult someone who understands a little bit more of that. It's not as simple as most people would think for what they are eating, quality foods, but it's definitely possible. So we see a lot of people who are there. It might actually be a little bit harder because what we have available for us in supermarkets might not be that simple to find sometimes. But yes, it is possible. You just need to calculate. You just need to go back and okay. So I'm eating the allotted amount of protein that I need. I'm eating my carbs. I'm eating my fat. Normally, when someone starts being vegetarian or vegan, they usually start eating a lot of carbs and no protein. So make sure that you are consulting a dietitian or a nutritionist so you can understand how much food you should be eating. Okay, I think that answers your question, right, Ivan? No, but we are recording. We are recording.
Growing up in Indonesia, especially even in the school systems, we get a lot of this information that soy is healthy, eat tahu and tempeh, it's really healthy. I don't know if this is still going on in schools today, right? But I guess as I find more information and as I do my own personal research and then I look into genetically modified soy and things like this, sometimes on really extreme days, if I see tahu, tempeh, or other forms of processed or cut out soy products, I think I might as well not eat that protein for today and skip it. And then there's also the topic of estrogen and how it affects males, especially aiming for active or competitive lifestyle. More of an open questions. Where are you guys at personally with these things with soy and yeah, especially on the topic of estrogen impact on males?
I will answer later. I think you're gonna have a stronger opinion.
Yeah. So I definitely do have a stronger opinion on this. I think it's a great question. Again, really important to base this answer on the fact that there is no such thing as a good food or a bad food. Okay. So again, we're going to hammer that point home. Soy is not the enemy. There's not one thing that you have to just avoid. But yes, there are absolutely things that present as issues with soy. Things like you mentioned, estrogen levels can be spiked by eating too much soy. Estrogen for men, not as good, especially if you don't have the right balance of it. So there's a lot of things that are very nuanced, and I'm not going to tell you what to eat or what not to eat. I will just say that for myself, I very, very rarely eat soy. I'll eat tempeh every once in a while. I eat tofu once in a while, but it is not a staple part of my diet, and is most definitely not where I get most of my protein from. I prefer protein from sources that are more micronutrient dense, things like beef, things like chicken, well, more like beef and fish, chicken sometimes, pork, things like that. That's what I prefer to eat for my protein sources as opposed to soy, because again, soy has a lot of other things going on. But again, for more information on that, you definitely want to talk to a dietitian and see what's right for you. Okay?
And I also think that coming to back to the topic of quality foods, there's always going to be soy that has not been GMO, right? So there's going to be what we would call organic foods and things like that. So if you go back to something that has not been genetically modified, then maybe you will still find good quality in soy itself. So it's not a villain. That's not a thing that is a lot in our culinary base back in Brazil. But for example, if I decide to go out and then I go to a place, let's give an example, Warung Erna. And let's say that over there, they only would offer me nasi goreng, indomie, and tempeh. I would make sure that I would eat tempeh because even though it's still fried, maybe it's not a good soy, I know that there's going to be some protein in that. So I need to evaluate all of the things, not just one thing. Is soy a villain? No. So again, check what is your goal. Check what is this something that is going to make you feel bad for some reason, like feel bad in your stomach, feel bad mentally. That also needs to be taken into consideration. Okay? Anyone? Anyone else? Wait.
Not we cannot eat soy. I mean, if we avoid that soy, it means we cannot eat the food that contains soy sauce.
No. I would say that kind of goes along the lines of overthinking things a little bit too much. Soy sauce is not going to kill you. Soy is not going to kill you. I think if you eat predominantly soy, and this is generally an issue for people who are vegetarian or vegan, who don't have very many options for things. I'm not going to go there. I was thinking about it. I'm like, how can I say that nicely? But no, I'm not going to go there. But basically, don't overthink it too much. I think having soy sauce with your food is perfectly fine. You're going to be okay. Yeah. Again, everything that we're talking about, don't pick one thing out of what we said and be like, okay, I'm never going to eat this. This is really horrible. If I eat this, I'm going to die instantly. Right? don't think of it that way. That's not the way that it works. Your body is very adaptable. Your body can work with most of the fuels that it's been given, right? So the main thing is just, again, asking yourself what your goals are and then trying to get towards your goals in the best way possible. So if you have unhealthy soy every once in a while, if you eat junk food, or not junk food, if you eat heavily processed food every once in a while, these things are not going to be the end of the world, right? Don't overthink it. Don't worry about it. Just make sure that the majority of your food is comprised of the stuff that's going to move you towards your goal. Does that answer your question? Yeah?
Can you explain again about why we cannot use plant-based oil? I mean, it's still oil, right?
Yeah. So again, it's not that you cannot use plant-based oil. It's just that things like soybean oil, palm oil are not healthy for you, right? Palm oil, things like that. Canola oil, that one's a tough one. There's some good reports on it. There's some bad reports on it. So it's a little bit vague. I would say that as a general rule, if you have the ability to control what oils you're using in your home, then use things like coconut oil and olive oil, right? Coconut oil has a very low smoke point, so you can't deep fry with it, but you can do most stir fries with coconut oil. And then for olive oil, if you want to dress things with oil, use olive oil. Corn oil is absolutely not good for you. Yeah. Yeah. So again, the most prevalent oil that we have here in Indonesia is palm and corn, right? And then we have soybean oil as well, right? Those are the three that I think are the most common. But those are the ones that you really want to try to avoid as much as possible. Again, having that is not going to kill you right away. It's okay, especially if you eat out, you don't control, right? But that, again, goes to the point of what we're talking about, controlling what you can control. If you guys are cooking in your own home, select oils that are going to be moving you towards your goals. Just don't have those oils in your home, right? And then as much as possible, instead of eating out, eat at home where you can control what you're doing, all right? I feel judged because you guys feel like I eat too healthily, okay? But really, I'll still eat anything, anytime, anywhere. All right? We've gone out together. We've eaten together. I'm pretty not picky about what I eat. But as much as possible, I'll set things up in a way that I'm able to succeed. And what that means is in my home, I only have healthy oils. Right? In my home, I always have meat in the freezer. I always have some defrosted meat so that at any time, if I'm hungry, I can just pull something out and I can cook it. I have vegetables, I have proteins, I have carbs, I have fats, I have everything that I need in my fridge. I'll have a snack every once in a while. That's not a problem. I'll order in donuts every once in a while. That's not a problem. Again, we're not asking you guys to become religious monks that only eat beans every day, right? Have fun, but try to set yourself up for success. If you understand what type of food you're eating and you stock your house with those things that are going to fuel your goals, then life becomes so much easier. Okay? Question? How about butter? Butter is fantastic. Butter, not margarine, is fantastic. If you can get grass-fed butter, that's even better. Because again, you have all of the issues of what you are, what you eat, and you are what you eat eats, right? But that's a little bit more complex. Let's just put it as butter is fine. Make sure that it's actual butter. Look at the ingredients. If there's a ton of things that you don't understand, it's probably margarine, not butter, and maybe avoid that. Yeah? Last questions, guys? Send it.
Okay, do you have any guidance on how many percent on a plate, like how many percent protein, how many percent carbs, how many percent fiber? I mean, losing weight or eating healthy?
So again, this comes down to individuals being different and not everybody's needs being exactly the same. But as a very, very, very rough guide, could you hold that for me? Carbohydrates, protein, fat. Okay? Carbs, protein, fat.
Bad fail. Fail.
Sucks. You don't have to worry about fiber too much, okay? Yeah.
Explain that. I don't think
Yeah. So to explain a little bit more detail, you take about a serving size of about yay big, your two palms together, and that's going to be your carbohydrates. Not like this. Just like this. So that's your rice, that's your potatoes, that's your vegetables, all of that, okay? Your protein is going to be, well, sometimes it's like this. I find that for me, that's a bit small, so I like that better, okay? And again, this is individual. This is a very, 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 very rough estimate, but this is about the size of the protein that you're going to have on your plate, is one hand, and then your fat is going to be like this. Okay? This is actually quite a bit of volume if you think about it. Ask your mom. So this here is like a good spoon of olive oil, right? Or an avocado, things like that. Does that make sense, guys? Again, this is super rough. I'm not saying this is how much of a slice of avocado. Use half an avocado. Why not? You know what I mean? Again, super, super, super rough guideline, but this helps you to kind of visualize what you're eating. So when you're going out and you have your food, if it's all carbs, then you need to have some protein in there as well.
If you look a plate from the top, the way that you can explain that is you would see roughly 50% of carbs and then roughly 40%, 35% of meat, and then some fat. If you were looking from the top, it was like a diagram. It would be 50, 60%, but again, it's going to depend on your goals, all right? But the idea is not all rice and a little bit of meat, okay? And maybe a lot of fat on top of that, okay? Porang. I don't even know what that is.
You know, porang. Porang is a kind of cassava things. Yes, like shirataki. Yes.
So the question is about shirataki, right? Shirataki is super popular because what is it made of? Fiber. So it's fiber, non-soluble fiber, and has 0 calories. Shirataki is made of like konbu, made of seaweed, basically, right? And okay, ask yourself, is that processed? Is it heavily processed? Okay, so for me, I wouldn't necessarily choose that just because it's heavily processed and it's 0 calories, right? It's great for people who are on extreme diets. Yeah. Anything to add about that?
I had it the other day, the first time I got COVID.
Oh, did you? Damn. Okay. If you have the choice between a food that you understand and you know what's in it versus a food that you don't quite understand and you don't know what's in it, which one do you think is the best choice for you? That you know and understand, right? Because at least you know if it's moving you towards your goals or it's not. So, yeah. I'm not going to say, again, there's no such thing as a bad food. If you want to have shirataki, go for it. But, yeah. You're okay with that. You'll be all right. Yeah.
Any other questions?
Alrighty. Do you want to close?
Yeah. So guys, pretty much just to close this is think of what you're eating. That's the main thing in the end. Take a hard look at what you're eating. Do you want to get somewhere different? Do you have any specific goal in your mind? And then think about that. Think about what you're eating. Try to write down what you're eating so you can actually count in the end, okay, I'm eating that amount and that amount and that amount, so you understand what you're eating, because sometimes we are actually creating traps for ourselves. So we think that we're not eating that much junk food, but we are. So take just a hard look at yourself. But if you have questions, ask us, okay? So if you have questions this on a day-to-day basis, just come over to us and ask. Even though we are not registered dietitians or registered nutritionists, we understand. Or if we don't understand, we can go and do some research and help you guys find that, okay? That's it.
I want to add one more thing. Last thing to add, if you guys do want to talk to a dietitian or a nutritionist, we have a partnership with Prasada Hospital, and they have a division that's for that. So I'll say don't ask admin just yet. Let me get all of the details, get that to admin first, and then starting Monday, you can start asking admin for that contact information, and then, you can get directly referred to the dietitians at Prasada Hospital.
And talk about the discount that they have.
Yeah, we have a lot of discounts with Prasada Hospital, okay? The nutritionist is something that I need to confirm with them exactly what offer that they're giving us. So that's why Monday is going to wait for that. But by the time you go on Monday and talk to admin, they should have all the information for you. If you are an unlimited BankL member, then you will have exclusive discounts and promotions with Prasada Hospital, okay? And we'll have a post about that later in the month, explaining all of the details of the partnership. Cool? Awesome, guys. All right. Claps. There you go. Woo.